The creative world loves to make fun of Nikon, at least on the internet, but with the release of this camera right here, I think the jokes have to stop. It's getting out the chute. All right. Like if this was like actually older car, this would be a great photo, but I feel like there's something back here. I don't know what they were just thinking. I can get myself out of it. Big shout out and thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So this is the Nikon ZF, the latest release from Nikon, and this camera is so different than anything Nikon has done essentially in the last 10 years. And that is why I was so excited to try out this camera. This is a loaner, I don't own it, but I'm gonna be able to use it for about the next month. And in today's video, we are gonna take it out, test it, and if you're new here, this is my perspective on experimenting with new cameras. I don't want this to be a gear review channel or a gear review video. I want to take this out, push it to its limits, try to make artwork, photos that could be in a book or in a gallery, and then share my perspective as a professional photographer using this tool to make the best images possible. A brief history on me with Nikon. I actually started my career using Nikon. I had a Nikon 6 something, I can't remember the exact number, it was so long ago, upgraded to a Nikon D810, and the early part of my career was built using that camera. These YouTube videos, all the professional work I did, I owe pretty much everything to that Nikon camera. So I have a little bit of a soft spot for Nikon, but I will admit that over the years, things got a little bit stale for them. In my opinion, it didn't seem like they were paying attention to what was happening in the creative world as a whole. They fell a little bit behind and then became the meme that we see a lot on the internet with people putting potatoes up their Nikon camera and all that. Now, because the camera body on the Nikon ZF mimics the classic Nikon F camera, which was a film camera, the main inspiration for today's video is film style photos. And I'm using this recent set of William Eggleston books as the main inspiration for the types of images I'm making today. And if you have my preset module, you can see the formulas for how edits are made. I use the film effects, which I don't use all the time, to help add to that film look to these images. So first and foremost, let's talk about image quality with this camera. The image quality is exactly what you would expect. Any digital camera that's been released in really the last 6 years is going to produce very nice images. Also, when I was using this camera at night, those night images look stellar. Nikon's always performed really well at night, in my opinion. I've never had an issue with low light photos. Now, what I would say with this camera is the 35-1.8 lens that I'm using isn't exactly my favorite Nikon lens. This is the only one that I had access to, and I would have loved to test this camera with something with a little bit more glass in the lens. And when it comes to a camera like this that has more of a nostalgic vibe and film type presence, I would have liked a lens that had a little bit more character. So I would definitely recommend, if you pick up a camera like this, pay attention to what lens you use, because a basic 35-1.8 like this, while it does deliver good results, might contradict what you're hoping to capture with a more film style retro camera like this. Now, this is where the video might get a little bit controversial, but this is my honest opinion on the ZF and having a camera body set up in this more retro styling that pays homage to film. Actually, before I say that, let me show you what my cameraman Alex said when I gave him this camera to test out and play with while we were out shooting this video. And keep in mind, Alec works with a lot of major car companies like Pirelli and Porsche.
Probably not practical for a professional. Really dope. Like, it's fun to use.
You wouldn't shoot Porsche with that?
Nah.
Now, that might sound a little bit harsh, but I agree with what Alec was saying. This is a camera that if you are going to pick up and just use like any modern mirrorless or DSLR camera, you could struggle a little bit, because that's not exactly what it's designed for. You still have the option of adjusting your aperture with the front dial, adjusting your shutter speed with the back dial, but who buys this camera for that? People who are going to be using this camera need to be ingrained in the film experience. They have to be willing to slow down their photography, adjust their dials manually, and really pay attention to what they're doing, because they simply love the craft of creating images. They're not trying to have speed. They're not trying to have this quick photography experience. This is a much slower camera. And speaking of that experience, I would have loved Nikon to have some type of lens where you could adjust the aperture on the actual lens itself. That could be something they introduce in the future, or for all I know, there could be lenses out there that have that and I'm just unaware of it. But I think that would add to the overall overall experience a lot. And that's another polarizing thing about the ZF. This is a camera that is fun. It's designed to be fun. It's designed to be an homage to film. It can perform as a professional camera. I'm sure you could shoot a lot of amazing jobs with this. And I did a quick little test just to make sure it was capable of that. I went back to my old Epitome days and made some shoe photos, and as expected, they looked amazing. So you can use this for pretty much anything, but do you really want to? And is that what it's made for? I'll explain my final thoughts in a second. First, I do want to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace and my website, evanramp.com, is the backbone and engine to my photography business. My website allows me to sell prints as well as presets and my photo book to anyone who wants to support this YouTube channel. It also allows me to showcase my portfolio in a beautiful way. I actually have a video on this channel where I break down exactly how to do that, and I recently finished updating my portfolio. Round of applause to me. But also Squarespace allows me to manage my email marketing so I can get in contact with my customers, and I can offer up free products like free preset, and you're in luck because I also have a video on the channel where I break down that process as well. I'll go ahead and link both of those in the description down below. If you want to grow your photography business in 2024, do anything with e-commerce, or just have a simple, easy way to showcase your work, no one is better than Squarespace, because you need no web design experience to build a website on their platform. If I can figure it out, you can too. So go to squarespace.com/EvanRamp, start a free trial, follow along with one of those tutorials linked down below, and when you're ready to sign up, you use code EvanRamp to save 10% at checkout. That's squarespace.com/EvanRamp to start a free trial and use code EvanRamp to save 10% at checkout. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So my final thoughts on the Nikon ZF, as well as my favorite photo on the day. This camera is the most important thing Nikon has done as a brand in the last 10 years, at least as long as I've been doing photography. This right here is an absolute game changer. You could argue that the Z9 was a game changer as well because of what it did for video, but this shifts the perception around Nikon, in my opinion, because they're finally listening to their customers and finally listening to what the market wants from them. Is this going to be a camera that works for everyone or makes sense for everyone? No, because it is an homage to Nikon's history. There's been a staggering increase in the interest around film and manual photography in the last few years, and there's also been a staggering increase in the price of film. And if you're someone who is looking to get into that style of photography, this is an option for you, and it's from a brand who historically, at least in my experience, has failed to really do anything that excites people. And with the release of this camera, I think the Nikon jokes can be put to rest. Now, my favorite photos on the day, it was a pretty tough photography day, but I think my favorite image is actually this marquee photo. I love how the marquee is purple. I love the colors here, the sunset, and I love that half crescent moon going on. This could have been a little bit better, but the composition's solid. I like the colors. I also love the image of Alec in the stairwell. The lighting here was fantastic. Could have been a little bit better, but I really like the light and I like the framing on this image as well. But with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. The Nikon ZF, it's pretty rad. It's different. It's definitely for a certain group of people, but I like it, and I'm excited to use it more. Let me know what you want to see in a more long-term review of this camera. I'll see y'all in the next one.